Imagine standing face to face with your ancient cousin, a Neanderthal male, in the frigid landscape of Ice Age Europe. The air burns your lungs with each breath, your modern clothes offering little protection against the biting wind. But he stands before you, nearly naked, seemingly impervious to the cold. His frame is shorter than yours, perhaps 5 feet 5 inches tall, but there's something imposing about him. His chest is barrel-shaped, twice the depth of yours. His forearms bulge with muscle beneath leathery, weathered skin. And when he moves, there's a density to his presence that feels almost superhuman. You extend your hand in greeting, a modern human gesture. He reciprocates, and his grip engulfs your fingers with startling power. What you feel in that moment isn't just strength. It's a fundamentally different kind of physical power than anything you've ever experienced. This is not science fiction. This was reality just 40,000 years ago, a time when our planet hosted 2 human species. Us, Homo sapiens, and them, Homo neanderthalensis. We shared the world, sometimes even interbred, but were fundamentally different physical beings. The most striking difference? Their raw, overwhelming physical power. Anthropologists have estimated that the average Neanderthal possessed strength that would make our strongest Olympic athletes look like children by comparison. Their grip alone could crush bones that our hands would struggle to dent. Yet here lies one of archaeology's most perplexing paradoxes. How could a human species evolve such extraordinary physical capabilities? And perhaps more unsettling, why did we lose them? What does it mean that we, modern humans, are the physically weaker version of humanity that survived? For centuries, we've dismissed Neanderthals as primitive brutes. Neanderthal became a synonym for stupidity and crudeness. But the scientific evidence tells a different story, one of a highly adapted human species with physical abilities that would appear almost supernatural by today's standards. Their massive bone density, muscle attachment points, and oxygen capacity suggest creatures of phenomenal endurance and power. Archaeological evidence indicates they could thrust spears with such force that they regularly took down massive prehistoric game at close quarters. A suicide mission for even the strongest modern humans. This is the story of what we lost, of physical capabilities that once belonged to our human family but disappeared, of evolutionary paths not taken, of strength beyond our modern comprehension that once walked this earth in human form. Tonight, we will explore the evidence for the superhuman strength of Neanderthals. We'll examine fossil records, biomechanical analyses, and cutting-edge genetic research. And we'll confront the unsettling question: did we triumph because we were better, or simply because we were different? The truth, as you'll discover, challenges everything we thought we knew about human evolution. It suggests that the modern human body, your body, might be a weakened, diminished version of what human physiology can achieve. That we traded raw physical power for something else entirely. In the darkness of caves across Europe, painted hands on ancient walls may be the signatures of a lost branch of humanity. Hands with a grip that could crush your bones. Hands that fashioned tools and weapons with precision despite their immense power. Hands not so different from our own. The story of Neanderthal strength isn't just about the past. It's about our future. It's about understanding what the human body is capable of, what we've lost, and perhaps what we might one day reclaim through our understanding of the human genome. Their DNA lives on in many of us. Between 1% to 4% of the genetic makeup of non-African humans comes from Neanderthals. Does that mean the potential for their extraordinary strength still lurks within our genes? Dormant, but present? Could it be awakened? As you drift towards sleep tonight, we invite you to journey back to an age when humans of immense physical power roamed the earth. When surviving meant being stronger, faster, and more resilient than we can imagine today. When our ancient cousins possessed abilities that would seem almost superhuman to us now. This is not just their story, it's ours. A chapter of human history that we've only recently begun to understand. A reminder that Homo sapiens is just one expression of what it means to be human, perhaps not even the strongest version. Tonight, we explore what science is still struggling to fully comprehend. The true physical capabilities of Neanderthal humans, how they used this extraordinary strength to survive in a world more hostile than we can imagine, and why such power vanished from the human lineage. The answers will challenge your understanding of what it means to be human. And perhaps, as you close your eyes, You might feel the echo of that ancient strength in your own bones, a distant memory of what we once were. Chapter 2: The Lost Potential of Human Strength. The implications of Neanderthal strength reach far beyond academic curiosity. If the scientific estimates are correct, we're confronting an uncomfortable truth. Modern humans represent a physically diminished version of what the human form can achieve. We are, in many ways, the weaklings of the human family tree. Imagine the strongest person you know, perhaps an elite athlete or powerlifter. Now imagine someone with potentially twice their strength, greater bone density, enhanced endurance, and superior cold tolerance. That's not a superhero. That was our evolutionary cousin. The average Neanderthal male likely possessed the strength of 4 modern human males combined. Their hand grip alone could exert forces exceeding 2,000 pounds per square inch, enough to instantly crush the bones of your hand if you arm wrestled one of them. The stakes of understanding this lost strength are enormous. It forces us to reconsider the narrative of human progress we've told ourselves, that we are the pinnacle of human evolution, the most advanced model. What if we're actually, at least physically, a downgrade? This isn't mere speculation. Fossil evidence shows Neanderthal bones with muscle attachment points dramatically larger than our own. Their upper arm bones were curved from the massive muscles that attached to them. Their joints could handle stresses that would shatter ours. Consider what this means for our understanding of human potential. If such strength was once possible within the human lineage, could we access some portion of it again? Are we living in bodies operating far below their theoretical physical limits? The implications extend to modern medicine, sports science, even space exploration. Understanding how Neanderthals generated and sustained such power could revolutionize our approaches to muscular dystrophy, osteoporosis, and age-related physical decline. For astronauts facing muscle atrophy in zero gravity, the biological mechanisms that gave Neanderthals their extraordinary bone density could be the key to maintaining physical integrity during long space journeys. Their adaptations might hold secrets essential to our future. There's an existential question here too. We often assume our intelligence gave us the evolutionary edge over Neanderthals. But what if the truth is more complex? What if we survived not because we were better, but because we took a different evolutionary path? Some anthropologists now suggest that our ancestors' lesser strength may have forced more cooperative hunting strategies, accelerating our social evolution. We may have developed complex language and social structures precisely because we lacked the brute force to survive otherwise. This perspective reshapes our origin story. Perhaps our physical weakness became our greatest strength, pushing us toward the cognitive abilities that eventually defined humanity. Our diminished physicality may have been the evolutionary pressure that created modern human intelligence. But there's a darker implication too. Evidence suggests Neanderthals were not the mindless brutes we once imagined. They created art, buried their dead with flowers, and fashioned complex tools. They may have had language. They were people, not monsters, which forces us to consider, what if they disappeared not because they were inferior, but because we outcompete them through sheer numbers, or perhaps even direct conflict? What if the last Neanderthals faced extinction at the hands of our numerically superior ancestors? The question haunts paleoanthropology. Did we share the planet peacefully with our stronger cousins, or did we eliminate them? The archaeological record shows periods of coexistence lasting thousands of years in some regions, suggesting interaction was not always hostile. Yet ultimately, they vanished while we flourished. By 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals were relegated to shrinking territories in Western Europe. By 28,000 years ago, they were gone entirely. Meanwhile, Homo sapiens expanded across every habitable continent. Their physical superiority proved insufficient against whatever advantages we possessed. This challenges our understanding of evolution itself. The strongest don't always survive. Sometimes, different adaptations prove more successful in changing environments. For all their power, Neanderthals remained specialized for cold environments, while our bodies and social structures adapted more flexibly to diverse conditions. Their strength may have become an evolutionary dead end, metabolically expensive to maintain as the climate changed. This raises profound questions about human potential and limitation. Are we, with our comparatively fragile bodies, actually better adapted for the future? Or did we lose capabilities that might prove crucial for our long-term survival as a species? Consider our modern physical challenges. Osteoporosis affects millions as we age. Our backs fail from upright posture. Our immune systems sometimes attack our own bodies. What if Neanderthal biology had solutions to these problems that disappeared with them? Recent genetic studies have identified Neanderthal gene variants that influence our skin, immune system, and even susceptibility to depression. The biological legacy of these ancient humans continues to shape us in ways we're only beginning to understand. Perhaps most compelling is the evidence that we interbred with Neanderthals. This wasn't rare or isolated. Virtually all non-African humans today carry Neanderthal DNA. We didn't just replace them, we absorbed them. Their genes live on in us, which means their physical potential might not be entirely lost. It could be dormant in our genome, expressed in subtle ways we haven't recognized, or accessible through advanced genetic understanding. The superhuman strength of Neanderthals might be sleeping in our cells. The stakes of this investigation extend to how we see ourselves, not just as individuals, but as a species. Are we the apex of human evolution, or merely the surviving branch of a more diverse human family? Were we ever meant to be this physically limited? As we probe these questions, we're not just looking backward at what was lost. We're looking forward to what might be possible. Understanding Neanderthal strength could reveal untapped potential in our own biology, capabilities we never knew we had. Tonight, we'll examine what made Neanderthals so extraordinarily powerful, how that power served them in their world, and why such capabilities disappeared from the human lineage. The answers may change how you understand your own body and its possibilities. Chapter 3: Children of the Ice. To understand the superhuman strength of Neanderthals, we must first understand the world that shaped them. Their story begins roughly 400,000 years ago, when a population of early humans in Europe began adapting to one of the harshest environments ever faced by our genus: the punishing cold of Ice Age Eurasia. While our direct ancestors were evolving in the warm climates of Africa, these early Europeans were transforming in response to a different challenge. Generation after generation, bitter winters and scarce resources sculpted their bodies into something formidable, the beginnings of Homo neanderthalensis. The Europe they inhabited bore little resemblance to the continent we know today. Vast ice sheets covered much of the northern territories. Temperatures regularly plunged to -30 degrees Celsius. The landscape alternated between frigid tundra and boreal forest, depending on the climatic cycle. In summer months, the land bloomed with grasses, herbs, and berries. Herds of enormous mammals, woolly rhinos, mammoths, giant deer, and bison traversed the plains. But winter brought a desperate struggle for survival that would last months, testing every adaptation, every ounce of physical resilience. This was not an environment for the weak. The cold alone could kill in hours. Food scarcity during winter meant successful hunts were essential, not optional. Predators like cave lions and dire wolves competed for the same prey, adding another layer of danger. Evolution in this environment favored specific physical traits: compact bodies to conserve heat, tremendous strength for close-quarters hunting, exceptional cold tolerance, and extraordinary endurance. Over thousands of generations, Neanderthals became the perfect Ice Age Europeans. Their bodies underwent remarkable transformations. Their rib cages expanded into a barrel shape, housing larger lungs and hearts than our own. Their nasal passages enlarged to warm, freezing air before it reached their lungs. Their muscles thickened, particularly around the upper body. Their bones tell a story of immense power. Compared to modern humans, Neanderthal fossils show dramatically larger areas where muscles attached to bone. Their forearm bones could withstand torsional forces nearly twice what ours can handle before breaking. Perhaps most telling are their finger bones, shorter than ours but much thicker, with enlarged fingertips. These hands were built for power gripping, capable of exerting forces that would strain or break our comparatively delicate fingers. By approximately 250,000 years ago, true Neanderthals had emerged, a human species supremely adapted to cold environments and close-range hunting. Their technological development matched their physical evolution, with sophisticated stone tools designed for their powerful grip and thrusting strength. The world they inhabited was incredibly demanding. A Neanderthal might walk 30 kilometers in a single day, tracking prey across frozen landscapes. They navigated without maps or compasses, reading subtle signs in nature, maintaining mental maps of territories spanning hundreds of square kilometers. They hunted massive prey, adult woolly rhinos, cave bears, and bison, using thrusting spears rather than throwing spears. This required closing to dangerously short distances with animals capable of killing them instantly. Only overwhelming physical power made such hunting strategies viable. Consider what this means. Neanderthals regularly chose to face enormous, aggressive prey animals at distances of just a few feet, armed only with wooden spears tipped with stone points. The strength and courage this required exceed what we can easily comprehend today. Analysis of Neanderthal fossils shows patterns of injury similar to those seen in modern rodeo riders, evidence of frequent, powerful impacts with large animals. Many skeletons show multiple healed fractures, indicating they survived encounters that would kill most modern humans instantly. Their hunting success despite these dangers testifies to extraordinary strength and resilience. They weren't just strong, they were powerful in ways we struggle to quantify. Their strength wasn't measured in gym exercises, but in the ability to drive a spear through the hide of a charging rhino. By 130,000 years ago, Neanderthals had spread across Europe and into parts of Western Asia. They had mastered fire, created sophisticated adhesives for toolmaking, and developed cultural practices, including the burial of their dead. They were thriving in their harsh environment. Then, around 100,000 years ago, something momentous occurred. The first anatomically modern humans, our direct ancestors, began tentative expansions out of Africa. The stage was being set for the most consequential meeting of distinct human species in our evolutionary history. These early Homo sapiens looked remarkably like us physically, though their cognitive and cultural capacities were still developing. Unlike the powerfully built Neanderthals, they possessed slender frames, narrower chests, and less robust muscles, adaptations to the warmer African environment. The contrast between these two human types could not have been more striking. Neanderthals were built like powerlifters, stocky, immensely strong, with exceptional cold tolerance. Early modern humans were built more like marathon runners, taller, lighter, with greater heat dissipation capabilities. This wasn't a case of primitive versus advanced. Both species had evolved specific adaptations to their native environments. Neanderthals weren't under-evolved humans. They were differently evolved humans, specialized for conditions our ancestors had never experienced. The first encounters between these two human types remain shrouded in mystery. Did they see each other as strange variants of the same kind, or as fundamentally different beings? Did they communicate, trade, or fight? The archaeological record offers tantalizingly incomplete glimpses. What we know with certainty is that Neanderthals possessed physical capabilities that would have appeared almost supernatural to early modern humans. Their strength, endurance in cold, and ability to survive injuries would have seemed extraordinary to our more gracile ancestors. Imagine the impression a Neanderthal hunting party would make. Individuals with massive upper bodies, capable of taking down the largest Ice Age mammals with spears thrust by hand, seemingly impervious to cold that would quickly kill an unprotected modern human. Yet despite their physical advantages, something about our ancestors' adaptations would ultimately prove more successful in the changing world of the late Pleistocene. The stage was set for a slow-motion replacement that would play out over thousands of years. Chapter 4. The Evidence in Bone and Stone. The extraordinary strength of Neanderthals isn't speculative, it's written in their fossils. Every Neanderthal skeleton tells the same story. These were humans built on a different scale of physical power than we can easily comprehend today. The evidence begins with their bones. Neanderthal bones are immediately recognizable to anthropologists not just by their shape, but by their density and thickness. A Neanderthal femur, thigh bone, might be shorter than a modern human's, but substantially thicker, with larger ridges where muscles attached. These attachment points are crucial evidence. Muscles connect to bones via tendons, and the larger and stronger the muscle, the larger the attachment point on the bone. Neanderthal muscle attachment points are consistently 30 to 40% larger than those seen in even the most muscular modern humans. Their arm bones tell an even more dramatic story. The humeral shaft, The upper arm bone often shows a pronounced curve not seen in modern humans. This curvature developed in response to the enormous muscles that pulled against these bones throughout their lives. Even more telling are the bones of their hands. Neanderthal hand bones were shorter than ours, but substantially more robust. The phalanges, finger bones, were broader and thicker, designed to withstand forces that would break our comparatively delicate fingers. Anthropologists Eric Trinkaus and Christopher Ruff conducted pioneering studies comparing the cross-sectional geometry of Neanderthal and modern human long bones. Their findings were stunning. Neanderthal bones showed dramatically greater resistance to bending and torsional forces. This wasn't a slight difference. Their bones could handle mechanical stresses up to 50% greater than those of modern humans. Even the strongest contemporary humans don't approach the skeletal robusticity seen in average Neanderthals. The picture that emerges isn't just of stronger humans, but of differently strong humans. Their power was concentrated in the upper body, shoulders, arms, and hands, suggesting specialization for close-quarters activities requiring immense grip and thrusting force. This upper body emphasis is evident in their unusually thick clavicles, collarbones, and expanded rib cage. Their shoulder joint allowed a different range of motion than ours, optimized for powerful movements directly in front of the body, precisely what's needed for spear thrusting. Their lower bodies, while still stronger than ours, show less dramatic differences. This pattern is consistent with a species that relied on strength and power rather than running speed. Hunters who ambushed prey at close range rather than pursuing it over long distances. Beyond the bones themselves, we can observe Neanderthal power through the traces they left on their environment. The wear patterns on their stone tools indicate application of forces far greater than those typically used by modern humans working with similar materials. Their primary hunting weapon, the thrusting spear, provides further evidence. These weren't the lightweight throwing spears used by modern humans. They were heavier implements designed to be thrust directly into prey at close range, requiring enormous strength and courage. Experimental archaeology has tried to replicate their hunting methods. Modern humans can barely generate half the force needed to drive these spears through the hide of large mammals. Even trained athletes struggle to use Neanderthal tools as they were intended. The remains of their prey offer another line of evidence. Neanderthals routinely hunted adult specimens of Europe's largest Ice Age mammals: woolly rhinoceros, mammoth, giant deer, and bison. Animals weighing up to 2,000 kilograms fell to their hunting parties. Close examination of Neanderthal fossils reveals another telling detail: healed fractures. Many Neanderthal skeletons show multiple severe fractures that had healed before death. The pattern resembles injuries sustained by rodeo riders, evidence of violent encounters with large animals. What's remarkable isn't just that they sustained such injuries, but that they survived them. Without modern medicine, Neanderthals recovered from fractures that would be life-threatening even today. This suggests pain tolerance and recuperative abilities beyond our experience. A particularly revealing case comes from Shanidar Cave in Iraq. One male Neanderthal, dubbed Shanidar 1, had survived a crushing blow to his skull, a withered arm, and multiple fractures. Despite disabilities that would render modern humans dependent on others, he lived to around 40 years of age. Their teeth provide yet another window into their physical capabilities. Neanderthals often show extreme wear on their front teeth, suggesting they were used as third hands for gripping materials. Their jaw muscles and teeth could exert forces that would fracture our teeth. Isotope analysis of Neanderthal bones reveals a heavily meat-based diet, particularly in northern regions during winter months. This high-protein, high-fat diet would have been necessary to fuel their metabolically expensive bodies in cold environments. Their physical power required significant caloric intake. Estimates suggest male Neanderthals needed 4,000 to 7,000 calories daily. For comparison, Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer known for his 12,000-calorie diet during peak training, was fueling much less muscle mass than a Neanderthal. Recent advances in ancient DNA recovery have provided revolutionary insights. Genetic analysis confirms Neanderthals possessed variants of genes related to muscle composition, bone growth, and oxygen transport different from those in most modern humans. Particularly interesting are differences in ACTN3, a gene that influences fast twitch muscle fiber development. The Neanderthal variant is associated with explosive power and strength. Many modern elite power athletes have similar variants, but they were standard in Neanderthals. Another genetic clue comes from genes controlling myostatin, a protein that inhibits muscle growth. Some Neanderthal fossils show evidence of genetic variants that may have reduced myostatin production, potentially allowing greater muscle development than most modern humans can achieve naturally. But perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from something more subtle. The entire Neanderthal lifestyle was built around their physical capabilities. They survived in environments and hunted in ways that would quickly kill most modern humans, even those with survival training. For hundreds of thousands of years, they thrived in conditions that push the limits of human endurance today. During the coldest periods, temperatures in their European territories regularly dropped below -30 degrees Celsius -22 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet they survived with technology far more limited than modern cold weather gear. Their incredible physical resilience raises a profound question. If Neanderthals were so supremely adapted to their environment, so physically powerful, why did they disappear? Why did our physically weaker species survive while they vanished from the fossil record roughly 40,000 years ago? The answer may lie in something completely unexpected, not in some superior quality of Homo sapiens, but in our differences. The very physical adaptations that made Neanderthals so formidable might have ultimately limited their ability to adapt to a changing world. And here we approach the true mystery at the heart of our story. What if strength itself became an evolutionary liability? What if the very power that made Neanderthals so formidable for hundreds of thousands of years ultimately contributed to their extinction? Evidence suggests a startling possibility. As the climate fluctuated and ecosystems changed, our ancestors' more generalized adaptations proved more versatile. Our lighter bodies required fewer calories. Our throwing capabilities allowed hunting at safer distances. Our social structures may have been more flexible, but this raises an even more unsettling question. What might we have lost in the process? What physical capabilities, once common in the human lineage, have disappeared forever? And could understanding those lost abilities reveal untapped potential still dormant in our genome? Chapter 5, The Paradoxes of Power, where the disappearance of Neanderthals presents us with a profound paradox. How could a human species so perfectly adapted to its environment, so physically superior to us in many ways, vanish while our seemingly weaker ancestors thrived? The conventional answer has long been simple: we were smarter. But this explanation crumbles under scrutiny. Archaeological evidence increasingly suggests Neanderthals possessed sophisticated cognitive abilities. They created art, buried their dead with apparent ritual, controlled fire, and crafted complex adhesives requiring multiple steps and precise timing. Their brains were actually larger than ours on average, 1,500 to 1,750 cubic centimeters compared to our 1,350. While brain size isn't everything, this challenges the notion that they were intellectually inferior. The structure of their brains differed from ours, but not in ways that suggest lesser intelligence. Recent discoveries have further complicated this picture. In 2018, researchers identified the oldest known cave paintings in the world in 3 Spanish caves. Dating to over 65,000 years ago, these artworks were created when only Neanderthals inhabited Europe, not modern humans. These findings force us to confront an uncomfortable possibility. Perhaps Neanderthals weren't cognitively inferior at all. Perhaps they simply possessed different types of intelligence, specialized forms of cognition adapted to their unique lifestyle and environment. Which brings us to the first major contradiction in our understanding of Neanderthals. If they weren't intellectually inferior and they possessed far greater physical power, why did they disappear while we flourished? Something doesn't add up in the conventional narrative. Here's where we encounter another paradox. Despite their impressive physical adaptations, Neanderthals maintained relatively low population densities throughout their existence. Even at their peak, they never achieved the population numbers that early modern humans would eventually reach. Estimates suggest the total Neanderthal population across Europe and Western Asia may have never exceeded 70,000 individuals at any one time. By comparison, early modern humans rapidly expanded to much larger populations despite their supposedly inferior physical capabilities. This population disparity presents a crucial clue. The very adaptations that made Neanderthals so physically powerful, their muscular builds, dense bones, and large brains, required enormous caloric intake to maintain. Their bodies were metabolically expensive in environments where calories were often scarce. A male Neanderthal likely needed 4,000 to 7,000 calories daily just to maintain his physique, considerably more than most modern humans. In the nutrient-poor environments of Ice Age Europe, gathering sufficient calories would have been a constant challenge, limiting sustainable population sizes. Our ancestors, with their lighter builds, could survive on fewer calories. This efficiency allowed larger populations, which provided crucial advantages: more innovation, greater resilience to local disasters, and eventually, numerical superiority when the two species encountered each other. Here we encounter another contradiction. Neanderthals' physical supremacy may have been their greatest vulnerability. Their superhuman strength came at an unsustainable metabolic cost in a world where finding enough food was already the primary challenge of existence. Yet the timing of their disappearance presents another puzzle. Neanderthals had survived multiple climate shifts over hundreds of thousands of years, including several glacial cycles. Why did they vanish precisely during the period when modern humans were expanding into their territories? The coincidence seems too perfect to be accidental. But the evidence doesn't support a simple narrative of violent conquest. There are few archaeological signs of widespread conflict between the species. The disappearance of Neanderthals appears to have been a gradual process lasting thousands of years. Perhaps the most perplexing contradiction lies in our genetic record. If modern humans simply replaced Neanderthals, we would expect clean genetic separation. Instead, most people outside of sub-Saharan Africa carry 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA, clear evidence of interbreeding. This genetic evidence tells us something profound. We didn't simply outcompete them, we absorbed them. The two species recognized each other as compatible mates despite physical differences. Neanderthals didn't entirely disappear. Parts of them live on in most of us. But here's where the mystery deepens. If we interbred extensively enough to carry their genes today, why don't we see more evidence of their tremendous physical capabilities in modern populations? Why did those traits largely vanish despite the genetic admixture? The answer may lie in what geneticists call selective sweeps, instances where certain genetic variants are strongly favored by natural selection. Over generations, our genome appears to have purged many Neanderthal gene variants while retaining others that provided advantages. This selective process reveals something crucial. Certain Neanderthal traits were actively disadvantageous in the changing world of the late Pleistocene. Their physical power, once an asset, may have become a liability as environments shifted and social complexity increased. We've discovered another telling contradiction in the archaeological record. Despite their immense strength, Neanderthals rarely made throwing weapons. They relied on thrusting spears that required close contact with dangerous prey. Our ancestors, despite being weaker, developed atlatls and eventually bows. This technological difference reflects divergent evolutionary paths. Neanderthals evolved to become stronger, allowing close combat hunting. Our ancestors evolved specialized shoulder anatomy permitting accurate throwing, trading raw power for the ability to kill from a distance. The fossil evidence reveals another anomaly. Neanderthal children developed differently than ours. They matured faster, with teeth emerging earlier and brain growth completing sooner. Their childhood was shorter, giving them less time for learning but accelerating physical development. Modern humans, by contrast, evolved extended childhoods, a period of vulnerability but also of intensive learning and social development. We traded rapid physical maturation for extended neural plasticity and social learning. Our weakness as juveniles may have driven our cognitive evolution. An additional contradiction emerges when we examine Neanderthal social structures. Despite having technology, art, and apparent rituals similar to early modern humans, their social groups remained relatively small. They never developed the larger, interconnected social networks that characterized our ancestors. This limitation wasn't intellectual, but may have been metabolic. Supporting the physical demands of their bodies required focusing on high-quality animal proteins and fats. This nutritional dependency limited their population density and, consequently, the complexity of their social networks. Our ancestors, requiring fewer calories, could subsist on more varied and readily available food sources. This dietary flexibility allowed larger, more interconnected groups, facilitating information sharing and technological innovation across wider areas, a crucial advantage in rapidly changing environments. The most significant anomaly in the Neanderthal story might be their apparent lack of innovation over time. Their stone tool technology, while sophisticated, remained relatively stable for tens of thousands of years. Our ancestors, meanwhile, showed accelerating technological change. But even this conventional view has been challenged by recent discoveries. Evidence from sites in France suggests some Neanderthals developed their own advanced technologies without contact with modern humans. Their conservative approach might represent adaptation, not limitation. Perhaps the most revealing contradiction is this: Neanderthals weren't less evolved than us. They were differently evolved. Their physical power wasn't primitive but specialized, representing an alternative path for human development that was remarkably successful for hundreds of millennia. Their disappearance doesn't prove they were inferior. It simply demonstrates that their specific adaptations, including their extraordinary strength, became less advantageous as climates shifted, ecosystems changed, and new human variants with different specializations entered their territories. The true mystery isn't why they vanished, but what we lost when they did. Their physical capabilities represented possibilities within the human form that no longer exist. Understanding those lost abilities might reveal potential still dormant within our genome, capacities we've forgotten we once had. As we continue our exploration, we must ask, what would have happened if Neanderthals had survived? What might humans be capable of physically if those genetic lineages had remained intact? And most intriguingly, could modern science eventually resurrect these lost physical traits? Chapter 6: Echoes in Myth and Genetics. The memory of encounters with physically superior human cousins may not have disappeared with the Neanderthals themselves. Throughout human folklore across Eurasia, we find persistent myths of powerful, wild people dwelling in forests and mountains, beings recognizably human yet possessing supernatural strength. These folkloric figures appear with remarkable consistency across cultures that had limited contact with each other. From the Russian Leshy to the Basque Basijan, from the wild men of medieval European art to the Himalayan Yeti, all share similar descriptions: powerful, hairy humanoids of the wilderness. Could these widespread myths preserve cultural memories of actual encounters with late surviving Neanderthals or other archaic humans? The possibility is more scientifically plausible than many might assume. Numerous species once thought extinct have later been discovered in isolated refuges. The timing is suggestive. While Neanderthals disappeared from most of Europe around 40,000 years ago, evidence indicates they persisted in isolated pockets much longer. The last confirmed Neanderthal remains come from Gibraltar, dating to approximately 28,000 years ago. But isolated populations might have survived even longer in remote mountain ranges or densely forested regions, precisely the habitats where folklore places these powerful wild people. Such refugia could have preserved small Neanderthal groups beyond the dates of our current fossil evidence. Consider the consistent physical descriptions in these myths: exceptionally strong beings with robust builds, prominent brow ridges, and the ability to survive harsh wilderness conditions without technology. The parallels to what we know of Neanderthal physiology are difficult to dismiss as coincidence. In some traditional stories, these wild people are described as having knowledge of plants, animals, and survival techniques unknown to modern humans. This aligns with what we might expect from Neanderthals, who had accumulated hundreds of thousands of years of environmental knowledge. The Basque Basijan, Lord of the Woods, is particularly interesting. Described as a powerful, hairy humanoid who taught humans agriculture and metalworking, this figure comes from the same region where some of the last confirmed Neanderthals lived. Even more intriguing, genetic studies have shown the Basque people possess some of the highest percentages of Neanderthal DNA among modern Europeans. Could their folklore preserve memories of actual interaction with late surviving Neanderthals in the Pyrenees Mountains? Beyond mythology, we find tantalizing genetic evidence suggesting more recent admixture with archaic humans than previously thought. In 2019, researchers identified Neanderthal DNA segments in modern Europeans that show signs of interbreeding as recently as 40,000 years ago, far later than earlier estimates. Even more surprisingly, a 2013 study of DNA from a 40,000-year-old modern human from Romania revealed that he had a Neanderthal ancestor just 4 to 6 generations back. This individual's genome contains 6 to 9% Neanderthal DNA, significantly more than any living person today. This finding confirms that substantial interbreeding occurred even in the late stages of Neanderthal existence. The genetic echoes of these encounters persist in our genome, though the percentage has decreased over time through selection processes and dilution across many generations. But the most provocative genetic evidence comes from specific gene variants we've inherited from Neanderthals. Many of these relate to immunity, skin and hair characteristics, fat metabolism, and, notably, muscle composition and bone development. The ACTN3 gene, often called the speed gene, regulates fast-twitch muscle fibers crucial for explosive power. Neanderthals carried variants associated with enhanced strength and power. Today, these variants appear at higher frequencies in elite power athletes than in the general population. Another Neanderthal-derived gene variant affects the BNC2 gene, which influences skin pigmentation. Others impact fat metabolism, helping the body store and process energy from limited food sources, adaptations perfectly suited to the feast and famine cycles of Ice Age Europe. Researchers have also identified Neanderthal variants in genes controlling bone development, particularly those influencing skull shape and bone density. These traits would have contributed directly to the extraordinary physical resilience evident in Neanderthal fossils. Perhaps most fascinating are the Neanderthal gene variants affecting the body's inflammatory response, part of our immune system. These variants helped Neanderthals, and now help us, fight pathogens, but may also contribute to inflammatory diseases in our drastically different modern environment. This genetic legacy represents a kind of evolutionary time capsule. Adaptations developed over hundreds of thousands of years in environments we no longer inhabit, now embedded in our genome. They're echoes of the physical capabilities that once defined the Neanderthal lineage. Beyond genetics, the archaeological record contains anomalous evidence suggesting Neanderthal strength sometimes exceeded even our highest estimates. At some sites, researchers have found stones moved during cave construction that would challenge modern strongmen to lift. At Breniquel Cave in France, archaeologists discovered a structure built from broken stalagmites 336 meters from the cave entrance. Dating to approximately 176,500 years ago, when only Neanderthals inhabited Europe, the structure required moving over 2 tons of material in near total darkness. Individual pieces weighed up to 400 pounds, yet were transported deep into the cave system and arranged in precise patterns. Without modern lighting or tools, this feat demonstrates logistical planning, cooperation, and physical capabilities that strain our understanding of what Neanderthals could accomplish. Similar evidence comes from La Côte de Saint-Brelade in Jersey, where Neanderthals drove mammoth herds over cliffs in organized hunts. The mammoth remains show butchery marks indicating Neanderthals moved massive body parts weighing hundreds of pounds for processing. At El Sidrón Cave in Spain, analysis of Neanderthal teeth has revealed something unexpected. Microscopic plant remains caught in their dental plaque include medicinal plants with no nutritional value. This suggests they possessed sophisticated knowledge of plant properties and self-medication techniques. One plant identified, yarrow, contains anti-inflammatory compounds similar to aspirin. Another, chamomile, has mild sedative properties. This evidence indicates Neanderthals weren't merely surviving. They were developing complex therapeutic knowledge to maintain their physical capabilities in challenging conditions. Perhaps the most puzzling archaeological anomalies are impossible cut marks found on animal bones dating to periods when only Neanderthals inhabited certain regions. These marks suggest cutting tools sharper than typical stone implements, raising questions about Neanderthal technological capabilities. At Zafareya Cave in Spain, researchers discovered such precision cut marks on ibex bones from layers dated to when Neanderthals were the sole human inhabitants. The marks show a level of precision difficult to achieve with known Neanderthal tools, suggesting capabilities we haven't fully recognized. The combined evidence, mythological, genetic, and archaeological, presents a picture of Neanderthals as far more sophisticated than traditionally portrayed. Their physical strength wasn't merely brute force, but part of a complex adaptive strategy encompassing technological, medical, and social innovations. This evidence forces us to reconsider our assumptions. What if Neanderthals weren't less intelligent, but differently intelligent? What if their cognitive architecture, like their physical architecture, was specialized for their unique environmental challenges rather than inferior to ours? Their apparent conservatism in tool design might reflect not an ability to innovate, but a highly refined technology perfectly adapted to their needs and physical capabilities. When you possess the strength to thrust a spear through a bison, perhaps you don't need to invent the bow. The most provocative possibility is that Neanderthal physical capabilities weren't solely the product of their anatomy, but were enhanced by knowledge we've lost, specialized training methods, dietary practices, or movement disciplines developed over hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. Could some of the seemingly supernatural strength attributed to mythological wild men reflect not just Neanderthal anatomy, but also cultural practices that maximize their physical potential? Practices that disappeared when they did, leaving only fragmented memories in our folklore? These questions lead us to a profound realization. The extraordinary physical power of Neanderthals wasn't simply a biological fact. It represented an alternative vision of what humanity could be, a different path of human development that flourished for hundreds of millennia before vanishing. Chapter 7: What was lost and what remains. The disappearance of Neanderthals wasn't just the extinction of a human species. It represented the loss of an entire alternative path of human development, a different vision of what humanity could become. With them vanished physical capabilities that modern humans can scarcely imagine possessing. We tend to view human evolution as a linear progression culminating in ourselves. But the evidence tells a different story. Neanderthals weren't our ancestors, nor were they an evolutionary dead end. They were our cousins, a parallel experiment in human adaptation that succeeded for 400,000 years. Their extinction represents an evolutionary crossroads, a moment when the human family tree, once branched into multiple thriving lineages, narrowed to just one. The implications of this narrowing extend far beyond academic interest. They touch on fundamental questions about our potential as a species. What physical capabilities might humans possess today if Neanderthals had survived and continued to interbreed with our ancestors? What biological potential have we lost with the dilution and selective removal of their genetic contributions over thousands of generations? The stakes of these questions have grown as we've come to better understand the Neanderthal genome. Their genetic legacy in us isn't just a curiosity. It represents a reservoir of adaptive potential shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of evolution in environments we can barely imagine surviving. Recent advances in genetic technology have made these questions more than theoretical. CRISPR gene editing and related technologies now offer the theoretical possibility of reactivating dormant genetic pathways or even reintroducing lost genetic variants from our evolutionary cousins. This prospect raises profound ethical questions. If we could reintroduce Neanderthal variants for enhanced strength, cold tolerance, or pain resistance into the human genome, should we? Would doing so restore lost potential or undermine what makes us distinctly human? Some scientists have already identified specific Neanderthal gene variants that might confer advantages in certain contexts. Variants affecting muscle composition, bone density, fat metabolism, and cold tolerance could theoretically be reintroduced or enhanced in modern humans. The implications extend beyond individual enhancement to species resilience. Genetic diversity is a reservoir of adaptive potential. The loss of Neanderthals and other archaic humans represents a profound narrowing of our species' genetic diversity, a narrowing that may limit our future adaptability. As climate change accelerates and humans face new environmental challenges, the adaptations evolved by Neanderthals for climate extremes could become increasingly relevant. Their cold adaptation mechanisms, if better understood, might inform human survival strategies for a changing planet. Even without direct genetic manipulation, understanding the biological basis of Neanderthal strength could revolutionize our approaches to human performance and health. Their bone density adaptations could inform treatments for osteoporosis. Their muscle efficiency could inspire new athletic training methods. The loss of Neanderthals may also represent the loss of alternative cognitive approaches to survival problems. Their brains, while similar in size to ours, showed different proportions in key regions. They likely perceived and processed information differently than we do. Evidence suggests their visual cortex was larger than ours, potentially giving them superior visual acuity and spatial processing, crucial advantages for hunters in varied terrain. Their larger occipital lobes may have supported enhanced night vision and pattern recognition in natural environments. These cognitive differences weren't deficiencies, but specializations. While modern humans excelled at abstract thinking and social networking, Neanderthals may have possessed forms of intelligence more directly attuned to environmental navigation, tracking, and direct interaction with the physical world. The extinction of these alternative cognitive adaptations narrowed the spectrum of human thought. We lost not just physical capabilities, but entire modes of perceiving and engaging with the world, ways of knowing developed over hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. This loss becomes even more significant as we recognize the limitations of our own cognitive architecture. Modern humans excel at abstract reasoning and symbolic thinking, but often struggle with direct environmental awareness and physical engagement with the natural world. The very cognitive adaptations that enabled our technological civilization may have simultaneously disconnected us from forms of environmental knowledge and physical intelligence that Neanderthals possessed. We gained abstract reasoning but lost embodied knowing. This cognitive trade-off is mirrored in our physical evolution. As we developed lighter frames and finer motor control, we lost the raw power and durability that characterized Neanderthals. Our dexterity came at the cost of strength. Our endurance running ability came at the cost of explosive power. These trade-offs have accelerated in recent millennia. Since the agricultural revolution 12,000 years ago, human skeletons show decreasing bone density and muscle attachment areas. The industrial and digital revolutions have further reduced our physical capabilities compared to our ancestors. Modern humans now exist in a physical state that would appear alarmingly fragile to Neanderthals. Our bones break more easily. Our muscles develop less robustly, even with training. Our bodies require climate control, physical protection, and constant caloric availability to function properly. This physical decline isn't merely aesthetic or athletic. It has profound health implications. Many diseases of civilization stem directly from the mismatch between our evolutionary design and modern lifestyles. Our bodies expect levels of physical stress and activity that modern life rarely provides. Obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and osteoporosis all reflect this evolutionary mismatch. Understanding the physiological adaptations of Neanderthals, humans who maintained extraordinary physical capabilities throughout their lives, might offer insights into addressing these modern health crises. The stakes extend beyond individual health to our species' long-term resilience. As technology increasingly buffers us from environmental pressures, our physical capabilities continue to diminish. We're becoming more dependent on technological systems that may not always be reliable. What happens to a physically diminished humanity if our technological systems fail? Could we survive in natural environments that Neanderthals navigated with ease? Have we become so dependent on technology that we've lost the physical resilience necessary to weather major civilizational disruptions? These questions grow more urgent as we face accelerating climate change, resource depletion, and ecological instability. The physical robustness and environmental adaptability of Neanderthals represent capabilities that might become crucial for human survival in uncertain future scenarios. Perhaps the most profound stake in understanding Neanderthal physiology is philosophical. Their existence proves that human can encompass more physical variation than we typically imagine. They represent not what we were, but what we might have become under different evolutionary pressures. This realization challenges our understanding of human potential and limitation. The physical capabilities we consider superhuman today, extraordinary strength, cold tolerance, pain resistance, endurance, were baseline adaptations in another human species that walked this planet until relatively recently. The boundaries of what constitutes human are far wider than our current physical variation suggests. Neanderthals embodied possibilities within the human form that have disappeared from our experience but remain latent in our evolutionary memory and partial genetic heritage. As we stand at the threshold of technologies that might allow us to reshape our own biology, the Neanderthal example becomes increasingly relevant. They represent not just what we were, but what we might become, alternative expressions of human potential shaped by different environmental pressures. The most startling possibility emerging from recent research is that Neanderthal genes may still influence human strength in subtle but measurable ways. Studies suggest individuals with higher percentages of certain Neanderthal genetic variants show differences in muscle fiber composition in response to resistance training. These influences are typically small. Modern humans with Neanderthal variants don't develop Neanderthal-level strength. But the persistent effects demonstrate that the ghosts of these ancient adaptations continue to shape us, even tens of thousands of years after Neanderthals themselves disappeared. This realization leads us to the most provocative question of all. What if the extraordinary physical capabilities of Neanderthals aren't entirely lost? What if they remain dormant within our genome, potentially accessible through new understanding of how genes are expressed and regulated? Recent advances in epigenetics, the study of how genes are switched on and off, suggest environmental factors can dramatically influence which genetic potentials are expressed. Could certain conditions or interventions activate more of our inherited Neanderthal genetic potential? The implications are staggering. What if the superhuman strength we associate with Neanderthals isn't entirely lost, but partially suppressed in modern humans? What if understanding the genetic and epigenetic mechanisms involved could allow us to access more of this inherited potential? As we delve deeper into the Neanderthal genome and better understand how their genes influence those modern humans who carry them, we approach a profound revelation, one that may fundamentally change our understanding of human physical potential and our evolutionary heritage. Chapter 8: Forces of Extinction and Adaptation. What truly caused the disappearance of Neanderthals and their extraordinary physical capabilities? Scientists have proposed multiple theories, each supported by evidence, but none entirely conclusive. To understand what we lost and what might still be recovered, we must examine these competing explanations. The climate change theory has substantial support. Approximately 40,000 years ago, Europe experienced dramatic climate fluctuations, rapid shifts between warming and cooling phases that transformed ecosystems faster than at any previous point in Neanderthal existence. These fluctuations might have been particularly challenging for Neanderthals. Their bodies, optimized for cold conditions, required enormous caloric intake. When traditional prey animals shifted their ranges or declined in population, Neanderthals would have faced severe nutritional stress. Their specialized hunting techniques, close-quarters confrontation with large mammals, may have become less viable as prey species changed. Meanwhile, the more adaptable subsistence strategies of modern humans, including fishing, trapping small game, and gathering plant foods, might have proven advantageous. Evidence for this theory comes from isotope studies of late Neanderthal remains, which show signs of nutritional stress and dietary shifts in the millennia before their disappearance. Their traditional high-protein, meat-based diet appears to have become increasingly difficult to maintain. Archaeological sites from this period show Neanderthals beginning to adopt broader subsistence strategies similar to those of modern humans, perhaps too late to save their populations from decline. Their specialized physiology had become a liability in rapidly changing environments. A second major theory focuses on competition with modern humans. As Homo sapiens expanded into Europe around 45,000 years ago, they would have competed with Neanderthals for the same territories and resources, a competition that ultimately favored our ancestors. This competition wasn't necessarily violent. Modern humans reproduced more quickly, maintained larger social networks, and could subsist on a wider variety of foods. Over generations, these advantages might have allowed our ancestors to gradually displace Neanderthals from their traditional territories. Evidence for this theory comes from the timing of Neanderthal disappearance, which correlates with modern human expansion across Europe. Neanderthals persisted longest in areas that were geographically isolated from early waves of modern human migration, such as Gibraltar. The demographic evidence is compelling. Modern humans maintained higher population densities and growth rates. likely due to their less metabolically expensive bodies and more diverse subsistence strategies. Over millennia, this demographic advantage would have been decisive. A third theory proposes that disease played a crucial role. Modern humans arriving from Africa would have carried pathogens to which Neanderthals had no immunity. These novel diseases might have devastated Neanderthal populations already stressed by climate change and competition. Similar disease-driven population collapses have occurred throughout human history when previously isolated populations came into contact. The European colonization of the Americas provides a sobering example of how devastating novel pathogens can be to populations with no prior exposure. Genetic evidence lends some support to this theory. Analysis of Neanderthal genomes suggests they had less genetic diversity than contemporary modern human populations, potentially making them more vulnerable to infectious disease outbreaks. However, the disease theory remains speculative. We have limited direct evidence of specific pathogens that might have affected Neanderthals, and the gradual nature of their disappearance over thousands of years doesn't match the rapid collapse typically seen in disease-driven extinction events. A fourth theory suggests that absorption rather than replacement explains Neanderthal disappearance. Genetic evidence confirms interbreeding between the species. Perhaps Neanderthals didn't go extinct so much as gradually merge with the much larger population of modern humans. This absorption theory is supported by genetic studies showing multiple interbreeding events over thousands of years. The Neanderthal genetic contribution to modern human populations was once much higher than the current 1 to 4% seen in non-African humans today. Natural selection subsequently removed many Neanderthal gene variants from our genome, particularly those affecting fertility and brain development. However, variants conferring advantages, including some related to immunity, fat metabolism, and adaptation to cold environments, were retained. This selective process suggests many Neanderthal traits were maladaptive in the changing world of the late Pleistocene and early Holocene. Their specialized cold adaptations, including their massive strength, may have become liabilities as climates warmed and social complexity increased. The most comprehensive explanation likely combines elements of all these theories. Neanderthals faced a perfect storm of challenges: climate instability, competition with modern humans, possible disease exposure, and genetic absorption, all while their specialized adaptations became less advantageous. Their disappearance wasn't inevitable or predestined. For hundreds of thousands of years, their powerful bodies and specialized cognitive adaptations made them extraordinarily successful in some of Earth's harshest environments. Different circumstances might have led to very different outcomes. Had climate conditions remained stable, had modern humans arrived later or in smaller numbers, or had Neanderthal populations been larger and more widely distributed, they might have persisted much longer. The extraordinary physical capabilities they possessed might still be common among humans today. This perspective transforms how we understand human evolution. Rather than a story of inevitable progress culminating in ourselves, it becomes a more contingent narrative, one where historical accident and circumstance played crucial roles in determining which human adaptations survived. The disappearance of Neanderthal strength wasn't the result of its inferiority, but of changing circumstances that favored different adaptations. Their physical power wasn't an evolutionary dead end, but a highly successful adaptation that became less advantageous in a rapidly changing world. This realization has profound implications for how we understand our own bodies. The physical capabilities we consider normal today, our relatively gracile frames, limited strength, and poor cold tolerance, aren't the pinnacle of human evolution, but one adaptive configuration among many possibilities. Neanderthals represent an alternative vision of human physical potential, one shaped by different environmental pressures and evolutionary history. Their extraordinary strength wasn't superhuman, but simply differently human, an adaptation as valid as our own, but specialized for different conditions. As we face new environmental challenges in the coming centuries, some of their adaptations might again become advantageous. Climate instability, resource limitations, and changing disease landscapes could potentially shift the selective pressures acting on human populations. In this context, understanding the genetic basis of Neanderthal physical capabilities takes on new significance. The traces of their genome that persist in many modern humans may represent not just evolutionary relics, but adaptive potential that could become increasingly relevant. Recent research suggests some Neanderthal gene variants are experiencing positive selection in certain human populations today, evidence that the adaptive value of their genetic contributions continues to evolve as our environmental and social context change. The story of Neanderthal strength thus becomes not just about what was lost in the past, but about what might be recovered or reimagined in the future. Their physical capabilities represent possibilities within the human form that once existed and could, theoretically, exist again. Chapter 9. The Genetics of Lost Strength. Recent scientific breakthroughs have revolutionized our understanding of Neanderthal physiology and its genetic basis. The sequencing of the Neanderthal genome, first accomplished in 2010 and refined in subsequent studies, has opened a window into the genetic foundations of their extraordinary physical capabilities. These genetic insights reveal something remarkable. Many of the genes that contributed to Neanderthal strength still exist in modern humans, either as inherited Neanderthal variants or as our own versions of the same genes. The difference lies not just in which genes we possess, but in how they're regulated. One key discovery involves genes controlling myostatin, a protein that inhibits muscle growth. Variations in these regulatory regions can dramatically affect muscle development. Some Neanderthal fossils show evidence of genetic variants that may have reduced myostatin production, potentially allowing greater muscle growth. Similar variants occur rarely in modern humans and some domesticated animals. When they do, the results are dramatic. Individuals develop significantly more muscle mass with minimal fat, even without exercise. These double-muscled phenotypes offer a glimpse of what might have been common in Neanderthals. The ACTN3 gene provides another crucial insight. Often called the speed gene, it produces a protein found exclusively in fast-twitch muscle fibers, those responsible for explosive power and strength. Nearly all Neanderthals carried a variant associated with enhanced power performance. Today, this variant appears in about 85% of people with European or Asian ancestry, but its expression and impact are modulated by other genetic factors. Elite power athletes are significantly more likely to carry this variant than the general population. Bone development genes show similar patterns. Neanderthals possessed variants of genes like BMP2, BMP7, and GDF5 that affect bone density, growth, and repair. Modern humans have different variants of these genes, generally resulting in lighter, less dense bones that require less metabolic maintenance. Some human populations living in extreme environments, such as high-altitude Tibet or the Arctic, retain Neanderthal gene variants at higher frequencies than other populations. These persistent adaptations suggest their genetic contributions remain valuable in challenging environmental conditions. Perhaps most intriguing are discoveries about genes controlling energy metabolism. Neanderthals possessed variants that enhanced their ability to convert food energy into muscular power and heat, crucial adaptations for cold environments, but metabolically expensive in terms of caloric requirements. These metabolic adaptations explain a central paradox of Neanderthal physiology: how they generated and maintained such extraordinary strength in environments where calories were often scarce. Their genetic programming prioritized muscular development and maintenance over other biological functions. The trade-off for this metabolic prioritization was likely in reproductive capacity. Evidence suggests Neanderthals had lower fertility rates and slower population growth than contemporary modern humans, a significant disadvantage in competition between the species over evolutionary time. Recent epigenetic research adds another dimension to our understanding. Beyond the genes themselves, Neanderthals likely had different patterns of gene expression, which genes were active, when, and to what degree. These epigenetic patterns shaped how their genetic potential was realized. Environmental factors, including diet, physical activity, temperature, and stress, influence these epigenetic patterns. Neanderthals living in Ice Age conditions, engaging in close-quarters hunting, and consuming primarily animal proteins would have had dramatically different epigenetic activation than modern humans. This epigenetic dimension creates a fascinating possibility. Some Neanderthal physical capabilities might theoretically be accessible to modern humans carrying certain genetic variants, given the right environmental triggers and developmental conditions. Studies of traditional cultures provide suggestive evidence for this possibility. Some contemporary hunter-gatherer and traditional farming populations develop physical capabilities far beyond typical Western norms, despite being fully modern humans genetically. For example, the Bajau people of Southeast Asia, traditional freediving fishermen, have evolved in large spleens that enhance their oxygen capacity. Tibetan Highlanders possess adaptations for efficient oxygen use at high altitudes. Traditional Arctic peoples demonstrate cold tolerance far beyond most humans. These modern adaptations demonstrate the remarkable plasticity of the human body in response to environmental pressures, a plasticity that likely operated even more powerfully in Neanderthals, whose development was more specialized for physical capability. This creates an intriguing paradox. The genetic basis for extraordinary strength may still exist within many modern humans, but the environmental conditions and developmental patterns needed to fully express this potential no longer exist in contemporary life. Our climate-controlled environments, sedentary lifestyles, processed diets, and reduced environmental stressors fail to trigger the epigenetic patterns that would maximize our physical capabilities. We may be carrying the genetic potential for greater strength without fully expressing it. Recent experiments with gene editing technologies like CRISPR have demonstrated the possibility of modifying genes related to muscle development in other mammals. Researchers have created gene-edited dogs, pigs, and other animals with substantially increased muscle mass by targeting myostatin-related genes. These technologies raise profound questions about human potential and enhancement. If we can identify the specific genetic and epigenetic patterns that gave Neanderthals their extraordinary strength, could we theoretically reintroduce these patterns into modern humans? The ethical implications are enormous and extend far beyond scientific questions. Should we attempt to recover lost human capabilities through genetic intervention? Would doing so represent enhancement or restoration of our evolutionary heritage? Who would have access to such technologies? Yet, even without direct genetic modification, understanding these mechanisms could inform new approaches to physical training, nutrition, and environmental exposure that might help modern humans develop greater strength and resilience within our existing genetic parameters. Some researchers have already begun exploring training methods that mimic aspects of Paleolithic life. Intermittent fasting, cold exposure, barefoot movement, and varied physical challenges. Preliminary evidence suggests these approaches can trigger physiological responses not typically seen in modern humans. The most tantalizing scientific frontier involves the remnant Neanderthal DNA many people carry today. Research suggests these genetic contributions continue to influence human biology in subtle but significant ways, including aspects of immunity, metabolism, pain sensitivity, and potentially muscle development. A 2020 study found that Neanderthal genetic variants affect how modern humans respond to different types of physical training. Some individuals show greater response to power-oriented exercise, while others respond better to endurance training, differences partially linked to archaic human genetic contributions. This research creates a remarkable possibility. By analyzing an individual's genetic heritage, including their specific Neanderthal contributions, we might develop personalized approaches to physical development that optimize their unique genetic potential. Another paradox emerges from this research: modern humans intentionally breeding for strength, as in the case of elite athletes, sometimes select for the same genetic variants that were common in Neanderthals. We may be unconsciously recreating aspects of Neanderthal physicality through sports selection. Elite strongmen, powerlifters, and certain field athletes often carry higher percentages of specific Neanderthal gene variants related to muscle composition, bone density, and oxygen utilization. Their extraordinary capabilities may partially represent the expression of this ancient genetic heritage. Yet, even these elite modern athletes likely express only a fraction of Neanderthal physical potential. The complete suite of genetic, epigenetic, developmental, and environmental factors that created Neanderthal strength no longer exists in combination today. The scientific frontier is now focused on understanding these complex interactions. How did Neanderthal genes, development, environment, and lifestyle combine to create their extraordinary capabilities? And could any aspects of this combination be thoughtfully reintroduced in modern contexts? Chapter 10. the ancient power within us. Throughout this exploration, we've circled a profound revelation about Neanderthal strength and its implications for modern humans. Now we must confront the central truth. The extraordinary physical capabilities of Neanderthals weren't the product of a fundamentally different biology, but of a different developmental path. Neanderthals weren't an alien species, but our close cousins, sharing approximately 99.7% of their genome with modern humans. Their remarkable strength emerged from subtle genetic differences expressed through dramatically different environmental conditions and developmental patterns throughout their lives. The most startling implication is this: significant aspects of their physical potential may still lie dormant within us, unexpressed but not entirely lost. The genes that built Neanderthal strength weren't all eliminated from our lineage. Many were simply turned down or off over generations of changing selection pressures. This isn't mere speculation. Recent research with gene editing technologies has demonstrated that relatively small genetic changes can produce dramatic differences in physical development. Modifications to a single regulatory region can significantly alter muscle mass, bone density, and metabolic function. These findings suggest Neanderthal strength wasn't created by thousands of unique genes, but by different regulatory patterns affecting genes we still possess. The differences between their physical capabilities and ours may be more about gene expression than genetic absence. Studies of modern humans with rare myostatin-related genetic variations provide a vivid demonstration of this principle. These individuals develop extraordinary muscle mass with minimal effort, a glimpse of physical development patterns that may have been more common in our evolutionary cousins. But genetics tells only part of the story. Equally important was the developmental context of Neanderthal life. From early childhood, they experienced environmental stressors that shaped their physical development in ways fundamentally different from modern human experience. Neanderthal children began contributing to hunting and gathering activities much earlier than modern human children. Their play was their training, developing strength, coordination, and environmental awareness through constant interaction with the natural world from their earliest years. Their nutrition differed dramatically from ours. Their high-protein, high-fat diet, combined with periods of food scarcity, created metabolic conditions that prioritized muscle maintenance and strength development. Their bodies evolved to preserve muscle mass even during caloric restriction. Cold exposure represented another crucial developmental factor. Regular exposure to cold temperatures triggers physiological adaptations, including increased metabolic rate, enhanced circulation, and greater mitochondrial density in muscles, all contributing to greater strength and endurance. Perhaps most significantly, Neanderthal life involved constant, varied physical exertion. Unlike our scheduled exercise sessions targeting specific muscle groups, they engaged in full-body movements dictated by environmental needs: climbing, carrying, throwing, thrusting, and manipulating natural materials. The combination of these factors, genetic predisposition, early physical development, specific nutrition, environmental stressors, and constant varied movement, created the extraordinary physical capabilities we associate with Neanderthals. The revolutionary insight emerging from recent research is that many of these factors could theoretically be reintroduced in modern contexts. The genetic potential for greater strength still exists in many humans. The developmental patterns that realize this potential could be partially recreated. Some contemporary training methodologies are already moving in this direction. Ancestral health approaches emphasize environmental exposures, nutrition, and movement patterns that more closely resemble those of our evolutionary past. Cold exposure training has gained scientific support, with research confirming it can trigger adaptive responses including increased metabolic rate and mitochondrial density. Intermittent fasting regimes mimic the feast-famine cycles experienced by prehistoric humans, potentially optimizing hormone levels for strength development. Movement practices emphasizing natural, varied, full-body engagement rather than isolated exercises show promise for developing functional strength beyond what conventional training achieves. These approaches attempt to recreate aspects of how Neanderthals developed their capabilities. The most provocative scientific possibility involves personalized approaches based on individual genetic heritage. By analyzing specific archaic human genetic contributions in an individual's genome, we might develop targeted approaches to physical development that maximize their unique potential. Someone with higher percentages of Neanderthal variants in genes affecting muscle fiber composition might benefit from different training approaches than someone with fewer such variants. This personalized approach could potentially unlock greater physical capabilities than standardized methods. The implications extend far beyond athletics into health and longevity. Many diseases of civilization, osteoporosis, sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, metabolic syndrome, may partly result from failing to provide our bodies with the environmental signals they evolved to expect. By understanding how Neanderthals maintained extraordinary physical capabilities throughout their lives, we might develop better approaches to preserving strength and function as we age. Their adaptations for lifelong physical capability may hold keys to addressing modern health challenges. The growing field of environmental epigenetics supports this possibility. Research confirms that environmental factors including exercise, nutrition, temperature exposure, and stress levels can significantly influence how our genes express themselves, potentially activating dormant adaptive potential. This creates a remarkable possibility. Without changing our genetic code, we might be able to access more of our inherent physical potential, including capabilities inherited from Neanderthals, through specific environmental, nutritional, and movement practices. The revelation isn't that we can become Neanderthals. Their total physical capabilities emerge from a complex combination of factors impossible to fully recreate. Rather, it's that we may possess untapped physical potential beyond what contemporary human life typically develops. This understanding resolves the central paradox of Neanderthal strength. Their extraordinary capabilities weren't alien or separate from human potential. They represent one expression of human potential shaped by specific evolutionary and developmental factors. Their disappearance didn't eliminate this potential from the human lineage. It simply redirected our developmental path toward different adaptations. The genetic foundation for remarkable strength remains within us, largely dormant but not entirely inaccessible. The most profound implication is that human potential encompasses far more physical capability than we typically experience or imagine. Our conception of normal human strength is based on bodies shaped by contemporary environments and lifestyles, not on what the human form can ultimately achieve. Neanderthals weren't superhumans. They were humans whose entire developmental context maximized different aspects of human potential than our environment develops. Their extraordinary strength wasn't beyond human capability. It was human capability expressed through different developmental patterns. This perspective transforms how we understand not just our past, but our future. As we gain the ability to consciously shape our biology through both environmental and potentially genetic interventions, we face a profound question. What aspects of our evolutionary heritage should we seek to recover or enhance? The Neanderthal example reminds us that human potential isn't fixed or singular, but varied and responsive to different environmental demands. Their extraordinary strength represents not what we were, but one vision of what humans can be when developed through particular pathways. As our exploration of Neanderthal strength concludes, we're left with a profound realization. The extraordinary physical power that once defined this branch of humanity hasn't entirely vanished from Earth. It sleeps within our own biology, fragmented, diluted, and largely unexpressed, but not entirely lost. We walk through our climate-controlled world with bodies that have forgotten much of what they might become. Our muscles, bones, and metabolic systems contain the echoes of capabilities that would seem almost supernatural by our modern standards, capabilities that were once the birthright of our evolutionary cousins. The story of Neanderthal strength isn't just about what we've lost, but about what we might reclaim. Not through nostalgia for a mythologized past, but through deeper understanding of human adaptability and the environmental factors that shape our physical development. Perhaps the most valuable insight from our Neanderthal cousins is that human potential isn't fixed or predetermined. It's responsive, adaptive, and far broader than our current expression of it. The human form can develop in dramatically different ways depending on environmental context and developmental patterns. This understanding offers both humility and hope. Humility in recognizing that modern humans don't represent the pinnacle or conclusion of human evolution, but merely one adaptive path among many possibilities. hope in realizing that our potential may be greater than we've allowed ourselves to imagine. The next chapter of this story is still being written, in research laboratories studying archaic human DNA, in training methodologies inspired by evolutionary principles, and perhaps most importantly, in our expanding conception of what it means to be human and what our bodies might achieve. As you drift toward sleep tonight, consider that within your cells may lie dormant capabilities inherited from these powerful ancient cousins, capabilities awaiting the right conditions to express themselves. The superhuman strength of Neanderthals wasn't beyond human potential. It was human potential, differently realized. Perhaps someday we'll find a balanced path that integrates the best of our Neanderthal heritage with the unique adaptations of modern humans, combining their extraordinary physical power with our social and technological innovations. If you've enjoyed this journey through our ancient human past, please subscribe to our channel for more explorations of the mysteries that shape who we are and what we might become.